Hello. So this is my end game setup, my end game combination. I did make a early game video earlier, but I thought this makes more sense to have this stuff first because it's just more interesting. And early game, we don't know what's going on. I did make some considerations for that, but let's just get right into it. So the main combo is set around Lightning Rod, and I don't think anyone's talking about this, but Lightning Rod seems pretty cool. Anything that is a beaming chain of lightning would then proc it, and then that would just, proc all the lightning rods around it. So if you're able to shoot a lot of them down really quickly, then you're having a good time with that. And they can also electrocute things that are near because they are hitting things, and you can hit those things far away, and they should also electrocute, which stuns them, I believe. And then that also works into range combat because you are far away, and you can move away from the lightning rods and they can be stunned by the electrocutions. So it could be really good for kiting enemies in it. Increase shock chance because I think shock's going to be very good, and what I want to do with it is have an orb storm go over the lightning rods. That way I can just cast these out, and I'll be casting two of them out, manually casting it. I don't need spell echo, I just manually cast it. You'll consume the shocks, which is going to be just great because I should be hopefully shocking a lot with this. But if you know anything about Auto Storm, it chains. It chains from enemy to enemy. I think up to 3 chains. When you use a lightning skill, so that could be anything. That could be even more lightning rods. But if you read here, it chains 3 times when you use a lightning skill near the orb. So I don't know what near is. That's going to be interesting to find out. But 3 chains. 3 chains means lots of lightning rod procs. And the lightning rod damage isn't that great, but it should be going off quite a lot because every single time a chain happens, it then procs every single one, so you get quite a lot of shotgunning. And just have a strong lightning bow and quiver. Just focus on elemental damage and int scaling, and then go Archmage. Archmage seems pretty strong. On top of that, after the lightning rods are down, after the orbs of storm are down, I'll just use Arc. Arc also chains, and we'll have chain support on it, so then it will chain even more, up to 100% more times, so that's 6 times. And you can probably see where it's going. We use Arc chain 6 times, orbs then changing, lightning rods are going off. We are then shocking with Arc and lightning rod, which then increases the amount of elemental discharge when they're going, which probably is fat damage. As I'm using a bow for lightning rod, I just thought this is going to be frozen salvo. This just helps just for certain situations where I just want to freeze something. And also by freezing something, I get 20% extra cold damage on my attacks. This is an attack, these are spells, but it's an attack. So that means that should then also do just a little bit of cold damage, which could chill, maybe not. Increase freeze and build up, just so things freeze. I'm also going to go for a stick. Monk stick sounds pretty fun. Flicker is a physical damage build, which then means I could put mana leech on it, and life leech if I need life. Probably not going to go for life, going to go for energy shield, but it just means I have a way to regain mana without chucking flasks. Falling Thunder, because it's also lightning, and I don't believe this could chain, but you could probably get a node that can make it chain. That is from, it hitting walls. And also Falling Thunder is just a really big hit, so what I would like to do for Falling Thunder is that I would have critical damage on it with consuming freezers. So this will be like a finisher. Probably put execute on this anyway. Have a perpetual charges, so it doesn't consume all the charges. And if it does kill something that was shocked, then this then gains more shock damage. So it'd be very good to combo this in with freezing salvo. Hands of Cheerula, because I feel like Spirit's going to be an issue if we're going to have Cast on Shock. Cast on Shock's going to be Ball Lightning. And Ball Lightning will just shoot out automatically twice per shock. Well, actually, it'll shoot it out anytime this activates, it'll shoot out twice. On top of that, it can also shoot out 8 times in a circle. This will then put exposure on enemies, and also mark the enemies for more lightning. I'm also thinking about putting on Mana Tempest, because what Mana Tempest does instead of like one of these supports, put on another spell. What Mana Tempest does is that when I'm standing in Mana Tempest, it means that my beams from lightning spells that cost mana, which is obvious, chained to 2 targets when chaining, but not chain further from those targets. So I don't know if this will work with Ball Lightning, but it does shoot a beam out. If Mana Tempest doesn't help Ball Lightning, it's not a problem. Ball Lightning will still proc Orbs of Storm, which then procs Lightning Ward. Mana Tempest would also proc Orbs of Storm in terms of chaining, and then add to the chains, and then also add to my arc chains. So it's still going to be useful, even though it doesn't help Ball Lightning, which I have to see. And also basically just gives us a good buff for our spells. It doesn't help our attack, which is a shame, but we're going to be buffing up our spell damage from int anyway, and then on top of that we're going to be getting more lightning damage, which helps our attack base, so there's some synergy. Our main damage is going to be spells, but the attacks do help, and they just kind of add up on shotgunning. But ideally just more chains, more lightning wads, more arcs, so on and so forth. It should be quite potent. But yeah, that's my main kind of setup around lightning wad. I don't see anyone talking about this. It could be really strong, just for like crazy shotgunning. Freeze the enemy, shoot a bunch of lightning wads on it, shoot your Orbs of Storm on it, then hit Flicker Strike to get your mana back, Falling Thunder to then do a lot more damage. Again, gives it more there's more attack damage if it does kill something. If it doesn't kill anything, it doesn't matter, just shoot arc on it, Orbs of Storm are coming out, everything's chaining, everything's hitting a lot of times. The skills, the ascendancy I'll go for Stormweaver. You could make it work on the monk, it's fine, but Archmage and Stormweaver just seems smart. Get 2 shocks, and 2 shocks means probably more damage from the elemental discharge. Then you're going to have the monk tree. Monk could be very good as well, but you don't benefit from 2 shocks, but then you also do just extra damage on everything, and then you have lots of his defenses. I'll go on this later anyway, so I made this video before the other video, so you're going to see a lot of overlap. What's interesting is that the reason we want to have power charge worked in is because harmonic generator seems strong. This whole tree is subject to change. I go over it again, but this whole situation could change anytime. But you can see here there's a power charge power node here, and there's also a power charge node here if you look at the icon. So what could this be? I imagine it's going to be something similar to the endurance charge node we have somewhere. The endurance charge node here, which gives recovery of life when endurance charges are consumed. So if there's a power charge one there, and there's something similar like this, it's going to be recover mana on use, which is going to be very strong because we're going to be using we're going to be using power charges. So that's another way to get mana recovery. So yeah, that's my main setup. Should be interesting. Any early game, I'll talk about that next. So if you saw the thumbnail, you know what to expect with this video. We're looking at building around range and melee, and that also includes spells for range. The purpose of this is because at the start of the game, we don't know what to expect. We don't know what's going to be good. If you're not interested in the early gear thought process I'm going to have, and the whys and all that kind of skill-based mix-up. If you look at any of the early game stuff from Subtractum, you can see how much just a very good item can carry you through the game. I find that if you were to build around Dex and Int, you should be able to use a decent amount of spells, Quarterstaff, which gives you melee skills, and also the bow, which is obviously range, and that way you have 3 different opportunities to find good gear. So how are we going to find skills that synergize well? Frost and Lightning do have a lot of flexibility. You kind of want to build into either Lightning or Frost, of course, but what I found is a pretty good skill combo setup to mix between them all. I'll get into that in a moment, but what we're looking at is a Dex and Int build, So you're going to be wanting to be on the right side of the tree. Forget the warrior. And mercenary could be alright, but a lot of the climbing, going up and right is going to be difficult, especially in early game. And also the nodes we're looking for are mainly just lightning or cold nodes, attack/cast speed nodes, which monks start off with. And also you can look at spell damage, but you can just find regular damage nodes. So first, the quarterstaff. It's just a fun two-hander with lots of mobility, fast melee attack archetype, good LE damage scaling, and possible projectiles or projectile-like things such as shockwaves. And that will help with clear in terms of skill. You dash in, get some power charges, do a big hit, maybe do a little spin, buff yourself up, slap on some curses, and things are dying. Next weapon we're looking at is bow. This has some good synergy because quarterstaff's quite quick and has mobility, and so does the bow, as well as you can kill things from far away, which is beneficial. You're probably not going to have a lot of life or defenses early on. You don't want to build your tree towards that, so you want to build your tree towards damage. So being far away means you can not get hit. And spells. So spells don't require any weapon, but you can just use it whilst having any weapon equipped anyway. So it's a third weapon or skill type to use alongside our staffs and bows. So, and you can just swap out, if you find a good staff, just swap one of them out, or be it quarterstaff or ranged weapon. It's up to you. Spells don't look to have a lot of ability, so that's something to consider, and maybe why you also want to mix it up with quarterstaffs and bows. These skill types or weapon types are going to be built around dex and int, and that's also the gear you want to focus on when you find it. Unfortunately, we're not going to have much strength, means we're not going to find armor gear, but that's fine. Hopefully evasion and also a lot of energy shield. We can also find life on the gear itself, so missing out on strength isn't that bad. Something to consider is that bows are just dex, there's no int involved, whereas quarterstaff has a mix of that. I think 75% of which is dex and 25% is int, and spells are just spells, so that's just int. Now it's time to talk about skills. What skills for what weapons? We'll start off with the spells. Spark is going to be a good clear skill. You can synergize it with your Flame Wall or Orbs of Storm to improve your damage. And also it scales with projectile and elemental damage, and that would also work with our other skills. For bosses, I suggest throwing down a Tempest spell, and that's from the quarterstaff. Should do some good damage proccing off the Tempest spell from Spark. If you have it with Flame Wall or you have it with Orbs of Storm, that's a lot going on, which should be more damage for you, and that will help any sort of lacking gear you have. Lightning Warp is something to consider as a good finisher skill. If you want to lean towards cold, then Frostbolts is good, but you probably want some more projectiles with that. And whatever the staff gives you, if you find a good staff, then you should be happy. If you do freeze something, Cold Snap is going to be useful, that's big damage. But it does seem that just getting Spark and finding some lightning nodes or lightning pen nodes, you probably don't need pen early actually, but just lightning nodes would be good, or elemental nodes, which you can find quite quickly. So that's spells. Quarterstaff skills. Falling Thunder looks fun. If you have power charges, which we should be able to generate quite easily, you can get a lot of extra damage from those power charges. It also produces some projectiles on it to get some more clear from using a power charge, which is really nice. Scales well. Killing Palm for coal, and it will make do until you get Lightning Warp. We also gain power charges from it. Tempest Spell, as mentioned before, just you can use it to debuff things, add exposure, so on. Vaulting Impact and Wind Blast are good for stun and getting things away from you or getting away from enemies, and you'd have it with a armor break support when you stun something. And you can also use Glacial Cascade if you did freeze something instead of using one of the other like Cold Snaps. Just whatever you want, you got mixed up, you got freedom there. For bows, Lightning Arrow is going to be easy, just put on multiple projectiles. and you can use some sort of escaping shot, apply some more freeze, use Glacial Cascade, Cold Snap to proc it. Lightning Rod should be really fun, because now you're probably using Spark over it, or any other lightning-based beam stuff. I don't know if Spark works, but if it does, that'd be really cool. And that will give you just lots of just little bits of damage. It all adds up. So those are kind of the early skills I would use. You can use things that I haven't mentioned. If you can find some good combos, go for it. You will at some point get better or higher tier uncut gems, and then you'll find more powerful combos to use. Ascendancies I would go for would be either Stormweaver or Invoker. I prefer to go with Stormweaver. Kind of want to go for an Archmage in the end game. If you look at the skill tree, you can quite easily move into, from Sorceress, you can move into Monk. Monk side of the tree has increased attack and cast speed on the same nodes, which can be very useful. As well as it has 5% off damage as extra cold damage. That's going to help with just getting chill on your lightning based skills. Lustful Power for power generation and max power. And also Harmonic Generator. Things are going to be chilled, things are going to be shocked. So you'll be able to empower your skills, your staff skills quite easily. Something to consider is that there's a node here that could be another power charge node. If it's anything like the endurance charge, it could be a recover mana depending on how much endurance charge loss. It could be a recover mana based on power charges consumed, which would be great because Chugging Flask sucks when you run out. So you have lots of freedom to travel up the tree. If you want to go for more attack based, forget about spells, and you get lots of attack here. Or if you just want to focus on some more penetration, nice. And elemental damage, and also more lightning stuff here. There's also an elemental damage here. This looks cool. Increased chance to inflict enemies with ailments, and that is going to synergize well with this node here, which is 40% increased damage with hits against enemies. That's just any damage that are affected by an elemental ailment. So as we're going to be proccing chill, freeze, shock, electrocution, so we're going to be working to boost our damage. We don't have to worry about specifically attack damage or spell damage. We should be able to just focus on Ellie. Projectiles are going to be useful as well, node size. But yeah, you can build defenses in terms of energy shield recharge, or build into more mana, get Mom. We also have increased mana leech nodes here. This also gives you mana leech, and this gives you mana leech here, and also mana on kill. So you're going to have lots of mana sustain, as well as you're going to have energy shield nodes, and you're going to have elemental nodes in this side of the tree. Your skills synergize very well with that, so it seems like a good early start. And then finding from what skills you like the most, finding where do I specialize in. Is it going to be my bow? It's going to be my quarterstaff? It's going to be my spells? I'm going to go spells at the end game. Stormweaver seems very strong. I have two different combo setups, one for Invoker and one for Stormweaver. But what I'm going to do for Stormweaver is I'm going to go for Arcane Surge, because faster cast speed is going to be nice. I'm not going to be picking up cast speed on my tree so much, so this just gives it for me for just having lots of mana as well. I'll go for both of these. I get Arcane Surge, which gives me 10% more cast speed and 20% more mana regeneration, and then I'll also have increased effect of this through maximum mana, which I'll be scaling with Int. More Int I have, the more lightning damage I have, which then also helps my other skills. I'm then going to grab this node here, which is going to give me 2 shocks. 2 shocks is just more damage. I might go for some of the cold stuff here, but I'm not too interested in that. Maybe I'll go for the Heart of the Storm to get some recoup, because I think maintaining energy shield recharge is going to be difficult. If you get hit a lot, don't get hit. If it seems pointless, then maybe the Scouring Winds, because that just gives me extra minus resistance on enemies from exposure. That's just like more damage multiplier. especially I'm using lightning, more lightning damage. Invoker's good as well. The Invoker, you can get I'm the Blizzard here, which gives you cold damage on top of any damage you do. It's an extra, so it just adds it on top of your damage, as well as lightning. Same thing here. You know, depending on what you want to specialize, do you like the cold stuff, do you like lightning stuff? Find what you prefer, go for both maybe. And also it drops chilled ground and shocked ground, which is going to be useful if you use Eye of the Winter, which then synergizes with that. These two nodes up here seem very good for defenses. You might want to have lots of spirit, and you're going to be getting lots of energy shield invasion on your chest plate anyway. Chest plate can scale even more with this node here in terms of defense. And then I don't know how important physical damage reduction is. You know, I imagine it's going to be very useful, but ideally things die before they hit you. Unbound elements might be good. I don't know what the numbers are. And you can also socket things in, but it also takes up another skill slot. Meditate seems alright, but a bit meh. And the rest just seems meh. The combos I'm looking to build around. This is if I go for an Invoker setup, this is for the end game. I'm going to try and use Spark alongside Lightning Rod. If it doesn't work, then I will swap it out for something else. Most likely it's going to be Orbs of Storm. Temper Spell will be very useful. Have it apply a lot of debuffs and maybe generate Rage, because it counts as a melee and it's not like a totem. It's a skill that you hit and then it hits things, and when it hits things maybe it gives you Rage. I don't know, there's lots of things I could swap this out. It's just an idea. Like I could have it with my stun setup. Stun's going to be very good to break armor with, but I think armor's more important for physical damage if we're doing lightning damage, so maybe not. If you really want to build endurance charges, you can have like Wind Blast, which then stuns, and then when it stuns it breaks armor, and then when armor is broken you gain endurance charge, and when you stun you gain endurance charge, so you get 2 endurance charges, which then you can use a Final Cry, which then gives you fire damage depending on power charge or the power effect. I'm not going to do that, but just an idea. This is meant to say this is meant to say Freezing Salvo. I couldn't find it on this tool, but Freezing Salvo, if you see here, does accumulates. So whilst I'm using my spells or my stick, I'm just gaining Freezing Salvos, which then I'll just use on the big enemy to freeze it. Freezing is fun. They can't hit you. And then if the enemy is frozen, I'll then also gain 20% damage on my extra damage, cold damage on my other attack-based skills, so not my spell. I think less support here, less duration here would be useful, because it means probably that the missiles will accumulate quicker. Falling Thunder seems very strong, lots of multipliers here. If you use a lot of power charges, I think you can get up to technically 5 power charges or 6 power charges, so that's 25 more damage per power charge. Then you also have 100% more damage if power charge was used, which it will be, as well as we are going to have more projectiles per power charge, 3 projectiles, so things behind it will die after the slam. It is a slam, so you might want to ancestrally boost it. Depending on how often you want to use it, you might not want that. Doesn't affect the projectiles, only affects the actual slam itself. You can then have it consume freezes to guarantee the critical hit, and the critical hits do more damage bonus, and combo well with Freezing Salvo, or anytime anything freezes. Execute as well to do more damage, assuming that you've frozen them. They're already probably low life anyway, low life being less than half. Lightning Arrow might be good to then just keep shock up on enemies or shock up on Lightning Rod. Just shoot things at the enemies trapped in Lightning Rod, but they're not trapped but walking over it, and that's just more beaming stuff. Flicker Strike might be very useful. It's kind of just a physical damage skill, so you can put on Mana Leech and hit things a lot and gain mana back. Use it when you really need to. Have it with Hourglass to do more damage. I don't know if Extend Combo would work, but you can find a replacement for that quite easily. Combo Finisher is going to be good because that kind of synergizes well with Hourglass. You're building up combo, you're waiting for the cooldown, do more damage. Blaspheme is a setup most people are going to use anyway, especially with Whispers of Doom to get 2 curses and Feeble. It's going to be nice. Things won't, if they do hit you, things will hit you for less damage. Temp Change to make things slower also works well with Chill because things are now really slow. As well as you can have a Decaying Hex on top of them, which scales with your int damage, but the chaos damage it gives from your int is probably going to be negligible. It will do something, but then it is receiving chaos damage the enemy. You can then put Hinder, so now they're slower, so things can't get near you to hit you, which is always good because getting hit sucks. Curse Effect, Cast on Shock. So ideally we are shocking a lot of things, and then when we do shock things we get a charge staff which consumes our power charges, which means our Flicker Strikes would then just hit shockwaves out. Shockwaves aren't projectiles, I believe, they're just a melee type, melee attack type, which is range but not, it's fake news. Then you can put a critical mark or lightning mark here, depends on what you want to go. If you want to build some frenzy charges up, you could build some frenzy charges up to then use barrage on it, but I want to use this lightning mark here because it gives increased shock chance, which then is good for cast on shock, and shock means more damage, and also anyone who is marked has increased shock effect. And if we're going to drop 2 shocks in, that'd be good for Sorcerer, for Stormweaver. Invoker doesn't have that luxury, so just shock effect would be nice to have anyway. Orbs of Storm are going to be quite a cool thing to shoot out without having to cast it. By it moving forward into your lightning rods, it would then chain with enemies, chain procs lightning rod, but it only chain once you use a skill, so you want to be using lightning arrow or spark. So you can probably see some good synergy here where Orbs of Storm starts chaining, starts proccing lightning rod, starts shocking things out, spark starts hitting things as well as monks the lightning rod. Increase limit just means that you can have 2 of them come out at the same time with a spell echo, so that means more chaining, more chains going on. What I decided to do is that lightning rod is going to be shocking things, hopefully. Lightning arrow is going to be shocking things from a distance. You want to have range combat maybe on that one. If not, lightning rod range combat would be good because you can walk away from it. If I see lots of things as shock, I can see lots of things on my lightning rod. They're chaining between my Orbs of Storm. They're getting hit by my lightning arrow. I can then throw in a spark, do hopefully what is fat damage from elemental discharge, and then reapply any shock from lightning rod as well as Orbs of Storm and then lightning arrow. They can also throw Temper Spell down in the mix to then apply more shock. And then as things are chilled and as things are getting shocked, and they're constantly getting chilled and shocked because elemental discharge removes the shock but does not remove the chill, so things are hopefully chilled, I can then keep generating power charges. Generating power charges means I can slam things. I can then use Flicker Strike when I'm ready, and hopefully if there's a power charge node which regains mana, I can then consume the power charges and gain mana back. It seems very efficient and also a fun combo. That's what I would do on the Invoker, and grab whichever cold damage and lightning damage and then all the defensive nodes. You can still fit Archmage on, Hands of Chayula on. Depends on what you want to do for that. Up to you. This is not a strict guide. This is just ideas for you, theory crafting. Feel free to change things however you see fit.